Welcome to the Deep Dive. You sent us this article. It's called Action Verbs, 500 Powerful Words to Supercharge Your Resume.
Mm,
From Rezoom, and honestly, it's kind of way more interesting than I thought it would be.
right.
At first glance, I was like, okay, action verb, sure, got it. But then, I actually dove in, I was like, hold on, this is a whole strategy.
Yeah, it is. It really is a strategy. It's not, like you said, just swapping out a boring word for something that sounds fancier.
Right.
It's really about how these words, these action verbs, can change the way a hiring manager sees you and your experience. It's the difference between someone who just did the tasks and someone who drove results.
That's a really good point. Okay, so that's what we're going to unpack in this deep dive, right?
Right.
Like the goal is to understand, why these action verbs are so important and, how to use them effectively,
Yeah.
how to make your resume stand out from the pile.
Mhm.
Because, in today's job market, you need every advantage you can get.
Oh, absolutely. And one of the biggest advantages you can give yourself is understanding how those applicant tracking systems work.
Right.
Most companies are using these systems now to, filter resumes before a human even looks at them.
Yeah, those ATS things.
Yeah.
They're basically like robots, right?
Mm-hmm.
Scanning for keywords, patterns, and if your resume doesn't have the right language, it might never even get to, like, a hiring manager's desk.
Exactly. And that's where these action verbs come in. By using strong, specific verbs that really align with that job description, you're essentially speaking the ATS's language.
Right.
And you're increasing your chances of getting noticed.
So it's not just about, like, sounding impressive. It's about, like, getting past the gatekeepers,
Exactly.
getting into the hands of the decision makers.
Precisely. And then, once you're past that ATS, those action verbs, they keep working their magic, right?
Yeah.
The article gives a really good example to illustrate this.
Yeah.
It's that classic weak versus strong resume bullet point.
Oh, I love that example. Yeah, so, like, it compares something like responsible for managing team schedules,
Right.
which, like, okay, fine.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's like orchestrated team schedules to improve productivity by 15%.
Yes,
It's like, whoa,
that's right.
that's like a much stronger statement, right?
It is. And what's really impactful there is that quantifiable result.
Yeah.
Like you said, that 15% productivity improvement. That's what grabs a hiring manager's attention.
It's not just the fancy verb. It's like showing the impact.
Yes.
It's like, hey, I didn't just manage things, I made things better.
Exactly. And that's what we want. A resume that doesn't just list tasks, it highlights your achievements, your contributions.
Okay, so, like, let's get into these action verbs, right? Like, this article gives us, like, a whopping 500 of them broken down into these categories. And it's like pretty much every skill you can think of, like leadership, communication, problem solving, teamwork, technical expertise. The list, like, goes on and on.
It does. And the categories themselves are pretty insightful. They make you think about your skills in kind of a new way. It's not just, okay, I'm good at communication. It's, well, what kind of communication am I good at?
Right.
Am I persuading people? Am I negotiating deals? Am I building relationships? And then you can go and find those verbs that really capture the essence of what you do best.
I found myself doing that. Like, I was reading through and I was like, wait, I've never really thought of myself as a strategizer.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, a lot of what I do is strategizing. And then, boom, like, there's a whole section of verbs that, like, perfectly describe, like, what I do.
Exactly. And what I appreciate about this list is that it's not just a random, jumble of words.
Yeah.
The article really emphasizes choosing verbs that are relevant to the specific job that you're applying for.
Right. So if you're going for, like, a tech job, you might use words like, coded, debugged, implemented. Whereas if you're in, like, marketing, you might be looking at, words like launched, promoted, analyzed.
Yeah.
Like tailoring your language to the audience and the opportunity.
Right. And it's not just about choosing the most impressive sounding word either, right? You have to be authentic.
Yeah.
If you use a verb that doesn't accurately reflect your skills or experience, it's going to sound forced.
Yeah, and insincere.
Exactly.
So, like, it's all about finding that sweet spot, right? Between showcasing your accomplishments, but also staying true to yourself.
Precisely. Now, beyond just choosing the right verbs, there are some really strategic ways to use them to make your resume stand out.
Oh, okay. So, like, what are some tips for maximizing the impact of these action verbs?
Well, one of the simplest but most effective things you can do is to start each bullet point with a strong action verb.
Okay.
That instantly grabs the reader's attention. It highlights your accomplishments. So instead of saying something like, was responsible for managing a team of 5, you could say, led a team of 5. You see, it's a subtle shift, but it makes a big difference in terms of how your experience is perceived.
Right, right. It puts you in the driver's seat.
Exactly. And it also helps to think about the order of your bullet points. You want to lead with your most impressive accomplishments, right? Remember, hiring managers often have to scan through dozens, if not hundreds, of resumes.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure your most impactful achievements are like front and center.
So strong verbs, front load your accomplishments.
Yeah,
Okay, what else? Like, what are some other, like, tricks of the trade?
absolutely. Remember those quantifiable results we talked about?
Uh-huh.
That's another key strategy. Whenever possible, back up your accomplishments with numbers.
Right, yeah.
It adds credibility and shows the tangible impact of your work. So instead of saying managed a budget, you could say managed a budget of $1 million, reducing expenses by 10%.
Right, right. It's a statement that, like, packs punch.
Exactly. And speaking of numbers, another simple but important tip is to use the present tense for your current role and past tense for previous roles.
Oh, right. Yeah, makes sense.
It just helps to create a clear timeline of your experience and makes your resume easier to follow.
Yep. Okay, and then what about, like, focusing on results, rather than just listing tasks?
Yes.
Because I think that's a big one.
Absolutely. One of the most important things to remember is to focus on those results-driven achievements rather than just listing routine tasks. So instead of saying attended weekly team meetings, you might focus on, what were the outcomes of those meetings? Collaborated with team members to develop a new marketing strategy that resulted in a 15% increase in leads.
Right, right. And, like, quantify it, put some numbers on it.
Exactly. It shows the hiring manager that you're not just someone who shows up, you're someone who makes things happen.
Okay, so I feel like we've, like, laid a really good foundation here.
Right.
We've talked about action verbs, why they're
Yeah.
important,
Mm-hmm.
some tips for using them effectively.
Mm-hmm.
But, we've only scratched the surface of this 500-word, treasure trove of verbs. And I think it would be helpful to, like, actually dive into some of the specific categories and see, like, how these verbs can be used in, like, real-world resume scenarios.
Yes, definitely.
So let's do that. Let's start with leadership and management.
Okay.
What are some of the, like, standout verbs from this category, like the ones that really pack a punch?
Okay, so spearheaded is a great one.
Okay.
It really conveys a sense of initiative and ownership.
Mm.
So, for example, instead of saying, was responsible for implementing a new program, you could say, spearheaded the implementation of a new program that resulted in a 20% increase in efficiency.
Ooh, I like that.
You see? It paints a picture of you taking charge and driving results.
It does, yeah.
Uh-huh.
And what about mentored?
Mentored is an excellent choice for highlighting your ability to develop others.
Okay.
It shows you're not just focused on your own success, but you're invested in the growth of those around you.
Mm.
You could say something like mentored junior team members, providing guidance and support that help them advance their careers within the organization.
See, this is what I love about these action verbs.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they turn a simple statement into, like, a compelling narrative.
Yes.
It's not just about what you did. It's about, like, the impact you had.
Exactly.
What are, like, some other verbs from this category that you find particularly powerful?
Well, orchestrated, as we mentioned earlier, is
Yeah.
definitely a favorite. It implies that high level of planning and coordination. For instance, you could say, orchestrated a company-wide event for over 500 attendees, ensuring seamless logistics and positive feedback from participants.
Oh, yeah. It really, like, elevates the experience, doesn't it?
It does.
It's not just, like, organizing an event. It's orchestrating it,
Exactly.
making it all come together seamlessly.
That's right. And another one that really stands out is unified.
Okay.
This is particularly effective if you've brought people together to overcome challenges or achieve a common goal. Like, unified a diverse group of stakeholders to reach a consensus on a major strategic decision, paving the way for successful implementation.
It shows you can, like, bridge gaps, build consensus, drive alignment.
Exactly.
Those are, like, really valuable skills in any leadership role.
Absolutely. And we've only just begun exploring leadership and management. There are so many other powerful verbs to uncover. But I think we should maybe take a pause here and come back fresh for our next segment.
Sounds good to me. I mean, we've covered a lot of ground in this first part, and I'm like already feeling inspired to revamp my resume.
I know, me too.
So stay tuned for part 2 of our deep dive, where we'll continue exploring action verbs from different categories and see how they can be used to highlight your unique skills and experiences.
Welcome back to our deep dive into action verbs. Last time, we were exploring how these powerful words can transform your resume, from a list of duties to, compelling narrative of your accomplishments.
And we've got so many more verbs to uncover.
Yeah.
We were just getting started with leadership and management.
Right.
But you know what? I'm thinking, we should jump to technical expertise next, because I bet a lot of our listeners are in fields where, those skills are front and center.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Ah.
I mean, technical skills are in such high demand these days.
Oh, yeah.
And using the right action verbs can really make those skills shine on your resume.
Okay, so what are some verbs that, really stand out in this category? I'm thinking words that, instantly convey that you're, a tech-savvy problem solver.
Yeah, engineered is a great one.
Okay.
It suggests that you're not just, following instructions, you're actually designing and building complex systems.
Right.
Imagine a bullet point that says, engineered a new software platform that reduced processing time by 50%.
Whoa.
That's a statement that's going to get noticed.
That's a statement that gets noticed, yeah. And it goes beyond just, coding, right? It's about understanding the, big picture.
Yes.
Creating solutions that, have a real impact.
Exactly. And speaking of impact, automated is another powerful verb for this category.
Okay.
In today's digital age, automation is key.
Oh, yay.
And if you've been involved in, streamlining processes or improving efficiency through technology, this is the verb to use.
So, instead of saying, was responsible for updating the company's website,
Right.
you might say, automated the website update process, reducing manual effort by 75%, and freeing up the team to focus on strategic initiatives.
Ooh, I like that.
Right?
Yeah, that's a story that resonates with any hiring manager who's looking for, efficiency gains.
Totally,
Yeah.
totally. And it shows, you're not just a techie. You're someone who, understands how to leverage technology to make, the whole organization more effective.
Exactly.
Okay, so those are great for, the big picture projects. But what about, those everyday tasks that still require, a lot of technical skill?
Yeah.
Troubleshooting,
Yeah.
Or setting up systems.
Right. Well, for those scenarios, verbs like debugged and configured are perfect.
Yeah.
They might sound kind of simple, but they convey a lot of technical expertise.
Okay, give me an example. How would you use those in a resume bullet point?
You could say something like, debugged a complex software issue that was impacting customer experience, restoring functionality within 24 hours. That shows that you're not only able to identify problems, but you can also solve them quickly and effectively. Or for configured, you could say, configured a network infrastructure to support a remote workforce, ensuring seamless connectivity and data security.
I see what you're doing here. You're taking those everyday tasks,
Right.
but you're elevating them
Yes.
by highlighting, the skills and the expertise involved.
Exactly. And it's not about exaggerating. It's about accurately reflecting the value you bring.
Right.
And speaking of value, verbs like developed and implemented are also really great for showcasing your contributions to projects or initiatives.
Oh, yeah. Those are good for, when you've actually created something new or, made a significant change.
Yes.
So instead of saying, worked on a new product launch, you might say, developed a key feature for the new product that resulted in a 15% increase in user engagement.
Exactly. You're moving from passive participation to active contribution.
Right.
And again, it's that emphasis on results that makes the difference.
Okay, I'm loving this. Technical expertise check. Now let's shift gears to a field where, the results are often tied to, actual dollars and cents.
Right.
Let's talk sales and marketing.
Okay, yeah. Sales and marketing. It's all about generating leads, closing deals, and ultimately driving revenue. Yeah.
And the right action verbs can paint a very persuasive picture of your success in those areas.
So what are some verbs that really make a splash in this competitive field? I'm thinking words that convey that closer mentality.
Ooh, I like that. Secured is a powerful choice, particularly for highlighting deals or contracts you've won. Instead of saying was responsible for new client acquisition, you could say secured a major contract worth $5 million, exceeding annual sales targets by 10%.
Oh.
Now, that's a statement that speaks to your ability to deliver results.
That does, and it shows you can not only bring in new business, but also like surpass expectations.
Yes.
What about like those early stages of the sales funnel where you're like focused on generating interest and building relationships?
Right. Well, generated is a great verb for that.
Okay.
You could say generated over 100 qualified leads through targeted marketing campaigns, resulting in a 20% conversion rate. It shows you understand how to reach the right audience and move them through the funnel. I see what you're doing here. You're not just like describing tasks. You're like quantifying your impact at every stage.
Exactly. And speaking of impact, verbs like expanded and launched are great for showcasing your ability to grow markets and bring new products or services to life.
So instead of saying worked on the product launch team, you might say launched a new product line that generated $2 million in revenue within the first quarter.
Exactly. That tells a story of initiative, innovation, and success.
And of course, in sales and marketing, you also need those verbs that highlight your like interpersonal skills, right? Like your ability to build relationships, influence decisions.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm thinking verbs like, negotiated, persuaded.
Yes.
Those are like, it's essential for anyone involved in like deal making or building partnerships.
Absolutely. You could say something like negotiated favorable terms with key suppliers, reducing procurement costs by 10%, or persuaded a hesitant client to adopt a new solution, resulting in a significant increase in their customer satisfaction.
These are such good examples. They really like showcase your ability to not just talk the talk, but like to actually walk the walk, achieve like tangible outcomes.
Right. And I think this is a good point to emphasize that it's not just about choosing the flashiest verb, right?
Yeah.
It's about choosing the verb that most accurately and powerfully reflects your actions and the results you achieved.
Okay, that makes sense. Now let's move on to a category that's all about numbers, financial and data analysis.
Okay.
I'm guessing this one is like all about showcasing like your analytical skills, your ability to like make sense of complex information.
It is. And it's a crucial category for anyone who works with data, whether you're a financial analyst, a data scientist, a market researcher, or even someone who just uses like spreadsheets regularly in their job.
Right, right. Okay, so what are some verbs that stand out here? I'm thinking words that like convey that you're like a number crunching, insight generating machine.
Oh, I like that. Well, analyzed is a classic for a reason. But to make it really impactful, you need to add context.
Okay, give me an example. Like how would you take analyzed from like basic to brilliant?
Okay, so instead of just saying analyze sales data, you might say analyzed customer data to identify key trends, leading to the development of a targeted marketing campaign that increased sales by 15%.
Ooh, I like that.
You see the difference. You're not just crunching numbers, you're using those numbers to drive strategic decisions and achieve tangible results.
That's such a good example. It shows like you can not only analyze data, but like you can actually draw insights from it that have like a real impact on the business.
Exactly. And if your work involves, making predictions or projections, forecasted is another great verb to use.
Okay.
You could say something like forecasted quarterly revenue with 95% accuracy, enabling the company to make informed decisions about resource allocation.
That's impressive.
Yeah, it shows that you have a deep understanding of the business and you can use data to like anticipate future trends.
Right. And when it comes to like demonstrating your impact on like the bottom line, verbs like reduced and increased are like your go-to choices, right?
Yes, exactly.
So instead of saying like manage the budget, you might say reduced operating expenses by 10% through strategic cost-cutting measures, or increased revenue by 20% by implementing a new sales strategy.
Yes. Those statements really showcase your ability to make a tangible difference in the organization's financial performance.
I'm loving this. It's like we're learning a whole new language for talking about our accomplishments.
I know. It's fun, isn't it?
And you know what? I think we're on a roll.
Okay.
Let's keep this momentum going and dive into another category. What about education and training?
Ooh.
I bet a lot of people have experience in this area, whether they formally trained others or just like mentored colleagues.
That's a great point. Education and training is a category that often gets overlooked on resumes, but it can be a powerful way to showcase your leadership skills, your ability to communicate effectively, and your commitment to developing others.
Okay, so what are some verbs that like really resonate in this category? I'm thinking words that convey that you're not just like knowledgeable, but you can also like share that knowledge effectively with others.
Yeah. Trained is a good one. It's straightforward, but it's effective, especially if you can quantify, the number of people you've trained or the impact of your training.
Yeah, okay, give me an example. How would you use trained in a resume bullet point that like really stands out?
Instead of saying provided training to new employees, you can say something like trained over 100 employees on new software, resulting in a 20% increase in their productivity. That shows you've not only delivered the training, but it's also had a measurable impact on the team's performance.
Right, right. It's not just like about what you taught. It's about like the results you helped others achieve.
Exactly. And mentored is another powerful verb for this category, especially if you've played a role in, guiding and supporting others' professional development.
So instead of saying like worked with junior colleagues, you might say mentored junior colleagues, providing guidance and support that helped them advance their careers within the organization.
Yes. That speaks volumes about your leadership qualities.
It does, yeah. It shows you're like invested in the success of others, not just your own.
Exactly.
Okay, so those are great for like highlighting your like interpersonal skills. But what about those times when you've actually like created training materials or like designed programs? What verbs would you use for that?
Developed is an excellent choice for that scenario. It suggests that you've gone beyond just delivering existing training, you've actually created something new.
So instead of saying like helped with the onboarding process for new hires, you might say developed a comprehensive onboarding program for new hires that reduced their time to full productivity by 15%.
Exactly. It shows you're not just a follower, you're a leader who can identify needs and create solutions.
Okay, we're on a roll.
I know.
Let's keep exploring these categories. What about creative and design? I'm guessing this one is all about showcasing your like artistic talents, your ability to like bring ideas to life visually.
You got it. And whether you're a graphic designer, a web developer, a writer, or anyone who uses their creative skills in their work,
Right.
this category is packed with verbs that can help you showcase your unique talents.
Okay, let's dive in. What are some verbs that like capture the essence of this field? I'm looking for words that spark that like, aha, that's creative feeling.
Yeah. Well, designed is a classic verb for this category, but
Okay.
to make it really sing, you need to add specifics about what you designed and the impact it had.
Okay, so instead of just saying like designed marketing materials, how would you give that bullet point like some creative oomph?
Ooh, I like that. You could say something like, designed a user-friendly website that increased traffic by 30% and boosted online sales by 20%. That shows you understand the principles of good design and how to create experiences that engage users and drive results.
It does, yeah. And it's not just about like making things look pretty. It's about like solving problems and achieving business goals through design.
Right. And created is another great verb that can be used to highlight, a wide range of outputs from marketing campaigns to video content to original artwork.
So instead of saying like worked on social media, you might say created a series of engaging social media posts that increased followers by 25% and generated a 10% increase in website traffic.
Ooh, yeah. That's a story that any marketing manager wants to hear.
Totally. And if your work involves like coming up with like big picture ideas or concepts, verbs like conceptualized and visualized are really powerful choices.
They are.
Okay, let's play with those. Give me an example of like how you'd use those in a resume bullet point.
Okay, so for conceptualized, you could say something like, conceptualized a bold new branding campaign that revitalized the company's image and resonated with target customers. Or for visualized, you could say, visualized a complex data set through an interactive infographic, making it accessible and engaging for a wider audience. Those are statements that really showcase your ability to think outside the box and communicate complex ideas in a compelling way.
Ooh, those are so good.
Right.
They really show, like, you're not just executing on someone else's ideas, you're coming up with your own and bringing them to life.
Right. And I think this highlights an important point. Action verbs can be used to showcase not just your hard skills, but also your soft skills.
Right.
Those qualities that are essential for success in any role.
Right. So it's about painting, like a complete picture of who you are as a professional. And action verbs are like the brush strokes that bring that picture to life.
I love that. That's a great analogy.
Now let's move on to a category that often gets like relegated to the background.
Okay.
administrative and support.
Mm-hmm.
But, don't let the title fool you. Like, these roles are crucial to the smooth functioning of any organization.
Well, they are.
And the right action verbs can help you, like, showcase the value you bring,
Mm-hmm.
even if your work isn't always in the spotlight.
That's right.
Okay, so, like, how do you make administrative tasks, like, sound impressive on a resume?
Yeah.
What are some action verbs that can elevate those roles?
Well, organized is a key verb for this category.
Okay.
It suggests you're not just someone who does tasks, you're someone who creates order and efficiency.
Right.
So instead of saying, was responsible for managing the office, you could say something like, organized a major company event for over 500 attendees, ensuring seamless logistics and positive feedback from participants. You see?
Yeah. It shows you can, like, handle complexity,
Yes.
manage details, and, like, create a positive experience for others.
Right. And managed is another really versatile verb that can be used to highlight your responsibility for, resources, processes, or projects.
So instead of saying, like, handled expense reports,
Right.
you might say, managed a budget of $1 million, ensuring efficient allocation of resources and staying within allocated funds.
Yes.
Or managed a team of 10 administrative assistants, providing guidance and support to ensure smooth operations within the department.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's about showcasing your leadership skills, even if you're not in, like, a formal management role.
Exactly. And speaking of leadership, verbs like streamlined and improved are great for highlighting your ability to make things better, to identify inefficiencies and create solutions.
Okay, so give me an example. Like, how would you use those verbs to showcase your impact in, like, an administrative role?
Yeah. You could say something like, streamline the expense reporting process, reducing processing time by 50% and improving accuracy by 10%. Or improved customer service protocols, resulting in a 15% increase in customer satisfaction ratings. These statements show that you're not just following procedures, you're thinking critically and taking initiative to make things better.
Ooh, I love that.
Yeah.
It's about, like, going beyond the job description and, like, making a real difference.
Exactly. And I think this is a good reminder that no matter what your role is, you can always find ways to contribute and make a positive impact.
Right.
And action verbs are a great tool for showcasing those contributions on your resume.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground today, right? We've explored action verbs for, like, technical roles, sales and marketing, finance, education, creative fields, even administrative positions. And I'm, like, sensing a theme here.
What's that?
It's not about having, like, the fanciest job title or, like, the most impressive list of responsibilities. It's about understanding, like, the value you bring and using action verbs to, like, communicate that value effectively on your resume.
That's a great takeaway. And you know what? I think we have just enough time to delve into one more category before we wrap up. Let's talk about research and development.
Perfect. I'm ready for another round of verb exploration.
Okay, good. So think about research and development, right? It's all about exploring new frontiers, pushing boundaries, and coming up with innovative solutions.
Right.
And the right action verbs can paint a picture of you as, like, a curious, driven, and results-oriented researcher.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What are some verbs that, like, really make a splash in this field? I'm thinking words that convey that you're not just, like, following the well-trodden path, you're blazing your own trail.
Ooh, I like that. Okay, well, research itself is like a fundamental verb for this category.
Okay.
But to make it really impactful, you need to add specifics about, the scope or focus of your research.
Okay, give me an example. How would you take researched from, like, basic to brilliant in a resume bullet point?
Instead of just saying, research new technologies, you could say something like, researched emerging trends in artificial intelligence, contributing to the development of a new product that leveraged cutting-edge technology. That shows you're not just keeping up with the latest developments, you're actively seeking out new knowledge and applying it to real-world challenges.
That's a great example. It shows you're, like, a thought leader, not just a follower.
Exactly. And if your research has led to any, breakthroughs or discoveries, discovered is a powerful verb to use. You could say something like, discovered a new method for improving the efficiency of solar panels, leading to a patent application and potential for significant cost savings in renewable energy.
Wow.
Right. Now that's impressive.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
Shows, like, you're not just, like, conducting research. You're making discoveries that have the potential to, like, change the world.
Right. And when it comes to showcasing, your scientific rigor and methodological approach, verbs like analyzed, experimented, and tested are essential.
So instead of just saying, like, conducted experiments,
Mm-hmm.
you might say, analyzed large data sets to identify patterns and correlations, leading to the development of a predictive models for customer behavior.
Ooh, yeah.
Or, experimented with new materials and techniques, resulting in a breakthrough in battery technology with increased storage capacity.
Those are great examples. They showcase your ability to, apply scientific principles, conduct rigorous research, and generate innovative solutions.
Okay, I'm getting like a real sense of the power of these action verbs.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we're uncovering like a secret language of accomplishment
I know.
that could help like anyone showcase their skills and achievements, in a more compelling way.
Exactly. And the beauty of these action verbs is that they can be applied across such a wide range of industries and professions.
Right.
It's all about finding the words that best capture your unique contributions and expertise.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground today, exploring action verbs from all these different categories and like really seeing how they can like transform resumes from a list of duties to a like dynamic showcase of accomplishments. But I know we've only just scratched the surface. There's so many more verbs to discover and like so many creative ways to use them.
It's
It's exciting, isn't it?
It is. It is. Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been on this whole journey exploring action verbs, and I gotta say, I'm feeling pretty energized.
I know, me too.
It's amazing how just changing a few words can make your whole resume feel more powerful.
It really is. But, we've talked about a lot of tactics like aligning verbs with job descriptions, diversifying word choices, pairing verbs with numbers. And I think it's helpful to kind of zoom out a little bit and see the bigger picture.
Right.
What's the overall strategy here? What's the story we're trying to tell with these action verbs?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's like we've been given all these amazing tools, but now we need to know how to use them to build something incredible. Exactly. Think of your resume as a marketing document.
Okay.
You're selling your skills and experience to a potential employer. And action verbs are the language of persuasion.
Right.
They help you showcase not just what you did, but how you did it and what impact you made.
So it's not just a list of tasks, it's like a highlight reel of your accomplishments.
Right. It's about shifting from a passive voice to an active voice.
Okay.
Instead of saying, I was responsible for, you're saying, I achieved, or I spearheaded, or I innovated.
All right.
You're owning your contributions and presenting them in a way that commands attention.
That's like you're saying, hey, I didn't just show up, I made a difference.
Exactly. And that's what hiring managers want to see.
Yeah.
They want to see evidence that you're a proactive, results-oriented person who's ready to hit the ground running.
Okay, so action verbs help us paint that picture. But how do we make sure that the picture is clear and compelling?
One key is to think about the narrative you're creating.
Okay.
Each bullet point on your resume should tell a mini story about your accomplishments.
Right.
You want to start with a strong action verb, then describe what you did, and then highlight the impact of your actions.
It's like a 3-act structure.
Exactly.
Action, description, result.
And remember those quantifiable results we talked about?
Uh-huh.
That's where the real magic happens. Numbers add credibility and show the tangible value you bring.
Right.
Instead of saying improved customer satisfaction,
Yeah.
you say implemented a new customer service program that resulted in a 15% increase in customer satisfaction ratings.
Right. It's not just a claim, it's evidence.
Exactly. And when you weave all those mini stories together, you create a compelling narrative about your career journey.
Right.
One that showcases your growth, your impact, and your potential.
Okay, I'm getting it. It's about using action verbs strategically to tell a story that makes the hiring managers say, wow, I want this person on my team.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one piece of advice you'd give to someone who's ready to revamp their resume with action verbs?
That's a tough one. There's so much great advice we've covered. But if I had to boil it down to one thing, I'd say, don't be afraid to experiment.
I love that.
It's true. This isn't about finding the perfect verb. It's about finding the verbs that feel right for you and your experiences. Try out different verbs, see what sounds strong and authentic, and get feedback from others. And don't forget, your resume is a living document.
Right.
As you gain new experiences and develop new skills, you can keep refining it, keep experimenting with those action verbs, and keep showcasing the best version of yourself.
Absolutely. And who knows, maybe one day you'll be sharing your own action verb expertise with others.
Huh? Maybe so.
Yeah.
But for now, I think we've given our listeners plenty to think about. It's time to put those action verbs into action and create some amazing resumes. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.